they are saying this day. Just hang on with us. Once again, if you are joining us, you are on to Press Brief, and on this program, the newspapers always come first. For presentation, I am attending Larry Kevin Sabot. We start off with the first paper for today, the Dawn newspaper. The publication from Limbe have as lead story for price increase or for price hikes. I beg your pardon. Will palliative measures suffice? That's a big question the Dawn is asking for this day. And that's the Dawn newspaper. 2024 Limbe Royal Cultural Festival garners acclaim from our community. You can find more on that paper of the Dawn for today. We take you to Kumba. It says City Mayor of Kumba, Gregory Mewanu, clears pothole to transform Kumba. And on that paper, still at 58th National Youth Day celebrations, emphasis on economic patriotism. We move over to the next story on that publication for today. It talks of well-being and beauty. Get to read that. Oh no, we move over to this one from Moyoka. It talks of Moyoka Meg contractor clash after contract was terminated, and the first college in the west of the Mongo, that is St. Joseph's College, Sase, clocks 85. That was on 1st of February 2024. Away from that publication, we take you now to the median. The median of Stephen Ojong for today talks of subsidy resumption slash price adjustment. The paper for this morning have as lead story, who reaps the benefit of fuel price increase? That's a question the median is asking for today. Walking visit to Cameroon, French Army General recalls his early school days in the city of Yaoundé. We take you to preventive medicine. Parents turn their backs on new malaria vaccine. Matt Angeline Minjab, did the GG of API die, or was she killed? That is what you can find on that paper of Stephen Ojong on page 5. We take you now to La Nouvelle Expression of Severin Chunker for today. It talks of the price of hydrocarbon products. Government decrease inflation generalizes. Get to read that story on the La Nouvelle Expression of Severin Chunker for today. In the set for price increase, the paper reports on 3 fake news on the set fuel increase. You can find that story on that set paper for today. We take you to AFCON 2023 in Cote d'Ivoire. The paper reports on the miracle of the Ivorian team. We move over to the nation. The nation from Lagos talks of 0 megawatts to discuss crippled homes, businesses, and how kidnappers exploit financial system loopholes. And in that set paper of the nation, the paper talks of how Ekiti Obas were killed by attack survivors Alari. Get to read that story on that paper for today. We move over to the northern region with Aigle Sahel for today. The paper report on politics. It says enhanced electoral elections 2025. The FSNC of Issa Chukuma Abakari garners support across the Mayo-Dani division on the that story from the Aigle Sahel for today. We take you now to this other story on the freedom of the press. It talks of Aigle Sahel gets into justice. Get to read that story on that said paper from the northern region of Cameroon. Let's move over to Samri. It talks of advancement for a better and profitable rice cultivation in the northern regions of the country. You can find these stories and others from that paper for today. Cameroon Tribune of Marie Claire for today. The paper reports on price of petroleum product, the adjustment of government. You get to read that story on what's the adjustment of fuel prices. It's all about on the National Bilingual Daily publication of Marie Claire Nana, Cameroon Tribune for today. Youth Week revisiting the roots of the celebrations of the youth in Cameroon. We move over to National Bilingualism Week. It talks of staff, students perpetuate bilingual practices. Get to read that story on that paper for today. Let's make a stopover with the Actual. The Actual tool says why the increase of fuel prices in the country. That is what you can find on that set paper for today. Jumo Mekako, the paper reports on transparency, equality. It's something that is mandatory for the hierarchy of the Central Bank of Central African States, known in French as BEAC. We talk on this other one from Collis Fumba, CEO of Iwami Technology, says they need to develop the fintech and infrastructural domains of Cameroon, according to Defi Actual for this morning. We move away from the Actual, we crossed over to the next paper, La Rivière du Consommateur for today. La Rivière du Consommateur for this morning, the asset paper for today have as lead story Access Bank, BGFI Bank, CBC Bank. The paper reports on this banking giants in the country that are doing great strides when it comes to the revamping of the banking sector in the country and that of the CEMAC sub-region. Prepaid meters of Cameroon. The paper reports on the inadequacy that have been witnessing in this set prepaid meters that was stipulated by a new. You can find that story on that paper for today. We take you now to Luswa. Luswa for today talks of the readjustment of prices of fuel. It talks of was it actually the inevitable or something that the government just wants to put as a burden to the poor Cameroonians. And we move over to the deployment of ministers for the deployment of the Ministry of Transport who intensify the fight against road accident in the country. That is what is telling us from the minister himself, Masenangale Bibihi. We move away from that story to talk on the National Bilingualism Week, how the boss of the National Bilingualism Commission was visible on the ground to make sure bilingualism is quite visible in the country. Let's make a stop over to Nigeria once more with the Punch. The Punch for this day talks of kidnapping epidemic, fundraising for ransom persists. Ekiti pupils families pays the sum of 15 million naira. And in that said paper, dollar supply rises by 180% as bank sells 440 million US dollars. Federal government states debt stocks on near worth of 107 trillion naira force rise loan. Tinubu Obasanjo world leaders mourn Namibian president. Get to read that story on page 28 on the Punch newspaper. Power generation crashes to 59 megawatts as grid collapses again. You can find that story on page 29 of the Punch for today. We cross over to the sports paper, that is Punch Sports Extra for today. It says this man is on fire. And in that said paper, Victor Osimhen edging closer to Arsenal move and Sané turns down Barcelona transfer. We talk on Ghana hit hat-trick in Blues home defeat, and Gunners again Blues title race open. You can find that story of Arsenal on how they are actually gaining grounds on the English Premier League. We move over to AFCON 2023 in Ivory Coast. It says DR Congo boss eyes AFCON glory. You can find more on that paper for today. Let's take you now to the next publication. Lloyd Israel talks of the price increase of hydrocarbon products. The paper reports on a dangerous game that the government is playing. You can find that story on that said paper for today. Mayo Sanaga division, 2 persons killed by Boko Haram insurgency. Get to read that story on that said paper. Imports 15 billion CFA francs collected in the North region in 2024. Get to read that story on that paper. University of Ngaoundéré, some amphitheaters needs to be immortalized by some regional and national personalities in the country. That is what the paper Aloy Sahel is telling us for today. From the northern region, we take you now to the south part of the country with the post. The post that from the southwest, it talks on severe cost of living lingers as government raises fuel prices again. That is what the post of late Francis Wache tells us for this day. Cameroon now among 20 African countries with highest fuel price per liter. You can find that story on that said paper for today. Cameroon, UK, Spain signed agreement to boost agriculture in the Adamawa region. We talk on 2025 general elections. Cameroonian diaspora raises fear of disenfranchisement. You can find that story on that set paper for today. The National Bilingualism Commission and Multiculturalism, the talks of NCPBM drums message of peace, harmonious cohabitation at Limbe Royal Cultural Festival. And we move over to the nation's political capital city of Yaoundé. It says unpleasant odor parades the streets of Yaoundé. Get to read that story on the post for today. From the post, we take you now to this other one, Le Reglet. Le Reglet talks of price increase in hydrocarbon products. The palliative put in place by President Paul Biya. How visible is that said palliative? That is what you can find on Le Reflet for today. And we take you to the Ministry of Joseph Lay. That's the Ministry of Administrative Reforms. The paper report on corruption that still persists in the fight of corruption still continues by the Minister Joseph Fonderson Lay, the Minister of Administrative Reforms. Get to read that story on Public Service and Administrative Reforms. Get to read that story on that said paper for today. Let's make a stopover with a code du Parlement for today. It talks of deserved homage. It talks of the National Assembly have accompanied Honorable Abomo Fama to her final resting place. You can find that story from the National Assembly on the demise and funeral service of the late MP from Cameroon. Get to read that story on that said paper for today. Generation Libre for today comes back to the prices in petroleum increase. It talks of domestic gas and other still remain unchanged according to the government of Cameroon. Let's make a stop over with this one of Camra. Camra talks of the outing of the first engagement. You can find that story on that said paper for today. Echo Matin for today talks of the palliative measures put in place by the state of Cameroon vis-a-vis the prices of price increase of hydrocarbon products according to Echo Matin for today. And the new prices an increase of 15% goes to the price increase of petroleum products. That is what Echo Matin reports for this morning. In that set, Echo Matin, the capital markets, the paper reports on Eurobond 2024, how Gabon keeps on making more strides when it comes to the purchase of the Eurobond 2024. You can find that story on that set paper for today. We crossed over to Reality Please of Paul. The paper of Paul for this day talks of the essence of super that sells at 840 francs per liter and Gazole that sells at 823 francs per liter. Is the President Paul Biya thinks the population still has not favored, and the paper went to say thank you a lot. What a contradiction there you can find on that paper of Paul for today. Balafon in Yaoundé, the paper reports on how some how some unpleasant situation took place there in that locality. We move away from that to Laveni. Laveni for this day talks of prices of petroleum products, why the government comes with a new adjustment that was quite inevitable. You can find that story on that said paper. And Black Canal, the paper reports on the Director General of Royal Jeux Cameroon, who the paper says will be buried on the 10th of February next week. We take you now to talk something else. Le Question talks of the presentation of New Year wishes to the Minister of Transport, Jean-Ernest Massenangale Bebe Dibehi, according to that paper, and the orientation of the said ministry in 2024. You can find that story on that said paper for today. We move over to the cooperation bilateral ties between Cameroon and Tunisia. It talks of His Excellency Karim Ben Bachi, who was receiving audience by by the Minister of State Properties. Get to read that story of that said paper for today. Integration for this morning talks of the African Cup of Nations 2023 in Cote d'Ivoire. It talks of the myths, the tragic, and the glories of the AFCON taking place in Ivory Coast. We move away from AFCON. We talk on SGS Finance, who participates in Promote, as she'll be promoting, or she'll be assisting some 25 small and medium-sized enterprises in that fair known as Promote in the city of Yaoundé. We remain in Yaoundé with this one of the Horizon. The Horizon for today talks of Cameroon for price adjustment. It talks of bond for masses. That's a question the paper is asking for this morning on the Horizon newspaper for today. And we take you to divorce pandemic in Cameroon. Catholic community, Texas. Chaplain proposes day-long couples marriage retreat, and CDC faces workforce exodus and financial strain amid ongoing Anglophone crisis. Get to read that story on page 6. Well, let's talk on brain drain. The paper reports on Douala airport staff accused of complicity of brain drain. We'll wrap up with this one from the mayor, who promises to make Bafoot Council area a heaven on earth for his constituent in Bafoot Tuba Council area of the Northwest region. Confidential newspaper for today reports on the Ministry of Transport. The prescription of Jean-Ernest Massenangale Bebe Dibehi for 2024, as he will receive New Year wishes from external internal close collaborators of his ministry. The accusation of rape and sexual harassment of the sex predator Javier Bobda. The paper reports on Javier Bobda still in custody of the forces of law and order as his case continues, according to Confidential newspaper for today. Away from Confidential newspaper, we take you to Information for today. Information talks of the readjustment of prices in the country by the President of the Republic that was signed by Celestin McGrath. Get to read that story on that said paper for today. We move over to the next publication for this morning. We take you now to Vanguard newspaper for today. It talks of uncertainty rules currency markets as external reserve rise. Get to read that story from Abuja of Vanguard newspaper for today. Shell pans gas to Dangote fertilizer plan. You can find that story on Vanguard for today. Presidency Atiku fights over Tinubu's economic policies. And in that said paper from Nigeria, it talks of Pizarro, the Nigerian head coach, plots South Africa's fall in semi-finals that will be taking place in Cote d'Ivoire by Wednesday for this week. We move over now to the paper of Luju of Amana talks of inflation, how to understand the prices of fuel products in the country, as inflation is quite visible across the nation Cameroon. We move over to this one, Promote 2024. SGS Finance will assist some 25 Cameroonian small and medium-sized enterprises in Promote. That will be coming up in no distant time. AFCON 2023, Cote d'Ivoire, Democratic Republic of Congo, while Nigeria will clash with South African, the Rainbow Nation of Nelson Mandela, South Africa, for the semi-finals that will be played in Ivory Coast. Get to read more on that publication for today. We cross over to Le Quotidien for this morning. Le Quotidien talks of the readjustment of prices of hydrocarbon products. It says Paul Biya preserves power as he continues to have his way. Get to read that story on page 4 on that publication. Cameroon Utility Water Corporation, CamWater, the paper report on the big priorities for 2024 by the Director General of CamWater, Blaise Musa. Get to read more on that paper for today. Hebdomadaire Messala from the Central Region for today talks of the readjustment of prices of petrol. He says what will become the impact of this increase of petroleum products in the country. That is what the paper is proposing as lead story for today. We move over to AFCON 2020 to read the paper report on a showdown of the semi-finals that will be taking place in the days ahead over there in Cote d'Ivoire. And development of Africa, the Italian plan that have been into action following the summit of Italy African Summit that took place in the city of Milan, with some African head of states that met with the Prime Minister of Italy, Giorgia Meloni. You can find more on that set paper for today. We make a stopover with the paper from Yaoundé, La Voix du Centre. La Voix du Centre comes back to the readjustment of prices in the country. It says, though difficult, was this actually necessary? That is what the paper is asking for this day. Cooperation ties between France and Cameroon in the military domain. It talks of the hour of reinforcement. You can find that story on that said paper for today. Road accident, the paper report on the engagement of SAMU to make sure that road accidents are being put at the abbey or at the basic or are being eradicated completely from the country. We take you now to Le Japon of Carol Tamba for today. It comes back to the prices of price increase of hydrocarbon product following the decree as that was signed and over the weekend on Friday. You can find that story on our said paper. We move over to the firefighting brigade. The paper reports on France and Cameroon will unite for inevitable cooperation ties between both countries. Ladies news for this day says Obala, the Center of Excellence in Cameroon. Get to read that story from that Obala locality of the Central Region. And we'll move over to the visit of the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Celestin Kecha Cortez, who is on a mission to inspect and evaluate some key projects that are ongoing across some major towns and cities in the country when it comes to the modernization of towns and cities in Cameroon. Sang de Retour newspaper for today talks of the price increase of petroleum products. It says commercial motor riders says yes to Paul Biya. And in that said paper, the council area of Kemkem talks of the evaluation of social works or social engagement in 2024, as you can find there on that paper. For today, we talk on the fight against corruption continues in 2024 as the boss of the Anti-Corruption Commission, known in French as CONAC, Reverend Dieudonné Massigam, says he and his team will continue to fight against corruption at all levels in Cameroon. We move over to this one regarding the price increase of petroleum products. It says Super now sells at 840 francs CFA, while Gazole sells at 828 francs CFA, and kerosene now sells at 350 CFA francs per liter. You can find more on that paper for today. The roads of Ebolowa, Akomtu, and Kribi, says Usman M. Saji, Director General of Standard Chartered Bank Yaoundé, comes to the assistance of that banking institution to the realization of that project. Get to read that story on the said paper. We are talking on Bonkana newspaper. These stories are from Bonkana newspaper for today. We move over to Isidore Biana. This says the goals of the third generation. Get to read more on Bonkana on that for today. Away from Bonkana, let's take you to Levedemang. Levedemang reports on the South region, how the South region has now become a vast site of construction. Get to read more on that in 2024. We talk on politics. The movement for the new Cameroon re-engages for new fights. Get to read that story on the political evolution of the country. We make a stop over thing. We are taking our backs out of the studios with this last paper for this day. The last paper for today, that is Luswa for today. Luswa newspaper for this morning report on the inevitable that have been awaited so far. That is a readjustment of fuel prices according to Luswa for today. In Aseloswa, cultural diversity and linguistic diversity in the country. The paper celebrates the National Bilingual Week that was witnessed last week in the nation Cameroon. With that paper, viewers of High Television, this is where we'll put a stop on this edition of the program, the first of the week, being Monday, the 5th of February 2024. Thank you immensely for the privilege of your company, and we are sorry that we couldn't have our reviewer for the second part of the program, but hopefully tomorrow we're going to be having someone to talk us through the second part of the program. For me and the entire crew, is a blessed start of the week in the company of High Television. Bye bye.